Hello. You?
If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you've already seen the first 4 seasons and already know the general gist of you. Otherwise, why did you click on this video? So, this season, we get something new and fun. Joe Goldberg has fallen into a real-life murder mystery, and this time, it's him that's being stalked and watched. The season starts where it left off, with Joe still obsessing over Marianne, who he believes fled to Paris to escape him. So, obviously, he takes that as a green light and flies across the world to go find her. She'll understand if she hears his side of the story. Then, the story suddenly veers off to him being in London and working as a professor, which is basically the vibe of the entire season. He gets invited to a party with the aristocracy, as you do, then wakes up in the morning to find a dead body on his table. Joe, being Joe, automatically assumes that he must have killed this guy and forgotten about it. You know, like when you go out for a crazy night and find a pineapple in your bed the next morning. So he gets to work disposing of the body, but then, plot twist, he's been set up. And now, the real killer is watching him. Okay, cool plot twist turning this season into a murder mystery. Now, let's try and guess who the killer could be. Could it be Nadia, his books are my entire personality student? They did try to make her out to not be a suspect.
One of you.
She was dating the first victim, and she always seems to be breaking into places she shouldn't be, just like the killer. But she wasn't at the party, and doesn't seem to know any of the other victims. Alright, so then, is it Phoebe? She's easily dismissed as the naive blonde girl, but if you pay attention, she's actually very intuitive and clever, and can think on her feet.
It's the only way for us to be safe, Kate. Look, your dad needn't hear how Gemma's not in your room now, she's just missing. And we're simply all concerned. So they ought to closely guard us, and be subtly made to stay away from the game larder until we know Jonathan isn't there anymore.
Yeah, she seems to lean into the airhead stereotype, allowing everyone to underestimate her.
Jonathan! Oh, thank goodness.
She can't possibly be you, right? Can't be.
Oh.
She seems kind, but that could all just be an act. Would a genuinely sweet person organise a murder mystery game while all their friends are being killed off one by one? She also has a habit of adopting strays, but maybe that's just all part of the fun for her, like a cat playing with her food. She's a bored rich girl, a lady who must always act ladylike. Would it really be so unrealistic for her to want to break free of that mold and see others as just things for her to play with? She was the one who kept pushing drinks on and potentially spiked Joe that first night. She's also the only reason that Joe's kept around the group. It's repeatedly mentioned by the others that they don't want him there, but Phoebe insisted. And why does she insist? Because he said something profound to her, which no one, not even Joe, remembers? The perfect excuse! The killer initially tried to frame Joe, but then was curious by his reaction and made him dance for them, toying with him. So it's someone who sees this as a game. Yeah, it's definitely gotta be her, right? And then we finally get the reveal we've all been eagerly waiting for. The killer is... Huh? Who the hell's that guy? Wait. Oh, it's that random guy from episode 1 that Joe talked to for 4 minutes. Well, didn't see that coming. You got me. All we really know about him is that he's part of this group, but comes from humble beginnings and dislikes the rich. He clicks with Joe over this, but then we barely see him again until the reveal. The only thing that would suggest it's him, the one thing you could possibly call a motive, if you're really, really trying, would be that he said he doesn't like the rich. So then, why did he pin it on Joe, the one non-rich guy, as opposed to all the other rich people there? And don't tell me he was worried they'll just use their money to get out of it, cause he immediately suggested they pin the murders on this guy. Yeah, they shoehorn in some manufactured motives for killing each person, but they were never set up before the reveal.
Why would I, aspiring mayor of London, kill them? Malcolm was blackmailing me over my not-so-little gambling habit. Simon's exploitation of women was about to leak, couldn't be associated. Gemma. Drunken Jack.
Subverting expectations. This worked really well in Knives Out. So, if you remember, Knives Out is also set up as a classic murder mystery. They both have the murder mystery house setting, a cast of snooty rich suspects, the writers letting us know oh so subtly.
I'm in a whodunit.
Both try to subvert expectations by revealing that the main protagonist is actually the killer. One is an absolute masterpiece, and one is...
The lowest form of literature.
But why is this? Subverting expectations should make the story better, not worse. It should make us more engaged. It'd be like if the killer in Knives Out turned out to be the old grandma that no one suspected, just because she was around and no one really interacted much with her. Yeah, no one suspected her, for a reason, but hey, it would have been a surprise. At the end of the first act, when Martha is revealed to have accidentally killed the victim, the genre is switched at the flip of a coin, from a whodunit to a cat and mouse game. Now we're on the edge of our seats, as a detective works the case to try and catch her. Only, it turns out that she was set up, and it makes sense. All the clues fall into place beautifully. The plot switches back to a murder mystery for the third act. Alright, let's talk about a little thing called promises, progress, and payoffs. Promises. This is what the story is going to be about, why we should keep watching, and what we can look forward to. Progress. This is the feeling of progression throughout the story, the detective investigating, finding clues, hidden motives, etc., all getting us closer to payoff. All the clues fall into place and click. That cathartic feeling when the detective reveals who the killer is, why they did it, and how they pulled it off. The promise was a murder mystery, that the clues would be sprinkled in throughout the season. Then everything would come together and make sense on the killer's reveal. The progress should have been Joe investigating, us learning each suspect's background, their whereabouts when the murders happened, their secret motives, and the relationship dynamics within the group. And the final payoff should have been all those clues falling into place and us discovering who the killer is, with the audience going, "Oh my god, of course!" Not, "Oh, what the F?" Learning each suspect's background and hidden motives is a classic part of the murder mystery formula, and it's like that for a reason. Mostly because it allows the audience to guess at who the killer might be, which is all part of the fun.
Well, it is a formula, but the formula is fun.
It also ensures that the characters are all fleshed out beyond character X is a rich bitch. Seriously, can you tell me anything more about this character besides this? Or this girl? This short summary from Joe in episode 1 is pretty much all we learn about these characters throughout the entire season. But most importantly, the gradual uncovering of details about each suspect means that all the clues sprinkled in throughout the story all come together in a satisfying, cathartic lightbulb moment when the detective finally reveals who the killer is, what their motive was, and how they pulled it off. Instead, after all that investigation Joe did to find the motive of the killer, the first half of the show, the killer just appears and says, yeah, it was me. I did it cause, they were bad people. Joe didn't put the pieces together to discover the killer. In fact, he didn't even find the pieces. If he'd done nothing at all, nothing would have changed because the killer just revealed himself anyway. None of the clues Joe uncovered even supported the revelation, and we still somehow learnt very little about each of the suspects. All his investigation basically came to nothing. It was all just filler. Anyone can surprise an audience, give them an ending they didn't expect.
I'm gonna get on this spaceship.
But if it doesn't all click the moment the reveal happens, then it'll be unsatisfying, and the last few hours will feel completely pointless. Also, what's with these screenwriters being afraid that we all have the detective instincts of this girl? She finds the key instantly. Took Joe days, and ripping his apartment apart 3 whole times. She finds his box just as fast. How did she even know there was anything behind there? Simon, for some reason, sends her photos of Joe repeatedly getting takeaway food from a place around the corner to him. What? He just likes their Rogue and Josh? Oh, you sweet summer child. No! Obviously, he must have a secret dungeon nearby where he tortures his captors with subpar Indian food. And can we talk about this convoluted plan she comes up with to murder Joe? So their initial plan was for this itty bitty little thing to sneak up on him and knock him out. Presumably in the dungeon, otherwise she'd have to drag his body down the street and hope that no one gets suspicious. If he heard her sneaking up in that quiet underground chamber, or, just reacted to her shoving that needle in him before she injected the contents, they're screwed. Did they plan to tell anyone, just in case it goes horribly wrong? Nope. But no worries, that plan fails before she even got down there. So they go with their backup plan, putting messages on Miriam's phone saying that her child's been taken back by her grandmother because everyone thinks she's relapsed. Then taking a ton of painkillers to almost overdose, to the point where it looks like she really has overdosed and has no vitals, in the hopes that he'll just dump her body somewhere and Nadia can revive her. And I'm just sitting here thinking, why don't you call the cops, you weirdo? Oh, it would be more dangerous for the kid, would it? Who's literally in another country? What if he took too long to get back again? What if he decided to chop up her body and throw her in the river, just like the other guy? Or what if Nadia simply didn't get out of jail in time to follow him? Plus, the line between appearing dead and actually being dead would be hella fine. You're telling me that she's malnourished and been sitting in a cage for months, but they know the exact dose for her to have no vitals, but not die? There was a pretty good chance that they whoopsied and actually overdosed her.
Not a great plan.
This is a safer option? How is it risking her daughter if he's in jail for life? In fact, everything they do endangers her and her daughter's life. Case in point, Simon ends up dead, with Nadia framed for it. Joe is very much alive, and now with more power and reach than he's ever had before. Literally everything they did just helped Joe, and covered up evidence for him. All the proof they needed was the girl locked in a bloody cage. And this poor guy, first she uses him as a drug mule, and implicates him in their murder plot. Then he ends up dead.
These two are going to kill each other or get married by the end of term.
I guess he was right. Yeah, I know I got a bit sidetracked there, but let's be honest, that's kind of the theme for this season. So, where were we? Oh, that's right. Why Reese made for a terrible killer. Well, what's worse than it being Reese? The writer's going, psych, it was all in your head. May as well have been, it was all a dream. So, instead of it being a cool murder mystery with the killer toying with him, Joe is just having a psychotic break. So, he was blackmailing himself then, handcuffed himself in a dungeon, and set it on fire? He would have died too, if Kate hadn't rocked up just in time to save him. Subverting expectations can be fantastic, if the plot twists make sense given the established characters. But the thing is, the plot twist rests entirely on Joe acting out of character. Joe becomes obsessed with and stalks women due to his trauma of watching his mum with abusive partners, and then him being abandoned by her. He's never done this with a man because he's a fan before. It lacks verisimilitude. I know some people will say, well, Joe has a history of mental illness and creating relationships in his head. But the show has gone to great lengths to show us where this comes from, and what specific type of person it's directed at. The show's original appeal was its unique look into the mind of a stalker, so throwing all that for a cheap plot twist shows just how far from the original roots they've gone. Trying to be everything. This season is the epitome of a story wanting to be everything. Murder mystery, psychological thriller, he's had a breakthrough and understands that he doesn't save the girl, he just ends up killing her. Actually, they're gonna save each other and keep each other good. Scratch that, he's still gonna kill, but less, and he's okay with that now. And I guess she's okay with basically dating her dad now? If they want him to grow as a character and have some big revelation, this scene where Phoebe gets kidnapped by her stalker for her own protection could have been it. It was right there! What was even the point of this entire little subplot? Oh right, to introduce the mental illness they're trying to use as the reason that Joe randomly switches his fixation of women, stemming from his childhood trauma of wanting to protect his mum, to a guy. I could actually see this working if Reese was portrayed as a smaller, defenseless, kind of feminine guy, being preyed on by bigger, stronger men. I can see how that could potentially have kicked his obsessive, must-protect brain into gear. Or even if Reese turned out to have been his little brother. But no, he's just like a fanboy? I can even understand why, with Joe pushing back on his murderous urges, he might have a psychotic break, disassociate, and block out his killings. But framing himself for the murders, suddenly obsessing over someone who doesn't fit his usual victim type, it just feels like they wanted to have this plot twist regardless of how poorly it fit. The kills don't even match his MO. Why did he kill this artist?
All motives always boil down to sex, money, or revenge.
So, which was this?
I have too many friends. I'm back when one is dead.
He killed Rich Bitch right after she accused him, so I'm guessing Joe's never played Among Us before. An alternative option that could have worked was Phoebe. They could have had his usual obsession with Phoebe. His imagined idea of her as this sweet, innocent, naive girl surrounded by wolves, someone who he needs to protect, which fits in perfectly with his established character. He's trying to work out who the killer is to protect Phoebe, but is also being forced by the killer to kill along the way, to dispose of evidence, to wriggle his way out of gems created for him. He has the same experience with a female stalker, where he basically says to her the thing that he needs to hear the most.
Whatever relationship you think you have with this woman, you don't. Put the knife down. Unlock the door. Let her go.
He worms his way into the group, getting to know each of the suspects, learning their secrets and hidden motives. Then finally, at Hamsley House, they play the same murder mystery game, but this time, adorning masks. And this time, the game actually serves a purpose. Joe plays a trick to expose which of them must be the real killer, follows them into the library, and stabs them. Only when he lifts the mask, he discovers that it was Phoebe all along. All the clues throughout the season fall into place and click. Joe is horrified and confused. I was only trying to protect you. Yeah, and how is that going? For any of us. She dies. And Joe is faced with the fact that he's created this whole different version of who she was in his head. That this is a pattern, that every girl he tries to protect ends up dead. He's just like the female stalker. He's the danger. He just can't see it. He goes into the final season with this revelation. This change ensures the promises are met. His investigation does uncover clues, which lead him to discovering who the killer is, and all the clues add up and make sense. It still ties in with his obsessive stalking and killing, the psychological thriller aspect of Hugh. Both his internal conflict, realizing that he's the danger, and external conflict, the other murderer, have a beginning, middle, and end. Sure, this is far from a perfect alternative, and many people may have guessed who the real killer was. But let me ask you, what's worse? Some people guessing who the real killer is? Or the reveal making absolutely no sense? And it being some random character who we haven't gotten to know well and have no attachment to? All that extra fluff, them throwing in random plot twist after random plot twist, like Phoebe being tricked into marriage, the private investigator, Miriam forgotten in the cage, Nadia trying to catch him, Reese, his psychotic break, and everything with Kate and her father. All of this not only makes the plot more convoluted, but it also means there's less screen time for the central cast, meaning most of these characters are skin deep. Not great for a murder mystery, where understanding the suspects and learning their underlying motives is key. I really love that they branched out from their usual formula. I genuinely thought it was a really cool idea. But the audience not guessing who the real killer was more important to them than it being a satisfying reveal and a good cohesive story.
It's too complicated. Just figure out what you are trying to say before you throw in any more plot twists.
You said it, buddy. Thanks for watching. I'm RT, and this has been Just a Peek at You Season 4.